In life, we all experience those days where you don't feel like doing anything. You know you've got things to do and get done, but the truth is, you can't be bothered. You don't feel like it for one reason or another. This video will teach you exactly how to navigate those moments using proven ideas from the latest breakthroughs in both science and psychology, and in a way that is far more effortless and sustainable. So get ready to take notes, because this is your ultimate guide to getting things done even when you feel lazy. My name is Keshav, and let's talk about it. Knowledge is never power until applied, but sadly, when we watch videos like this, it's hard to really know how to apply the information in a practical way, and it's all too easy to fall into this trap of consuming more personal development content quite mindlessly without ever changing anything. And this is where we're going to do things different today, friends. The aim of my channel is to help you be a practitioner of these ideas, not just a passive consumer of them. So as you go through this video, I've set out 8 principles for you to follow to help you get more done even when you don't feel like it. Each of these principles builds on the last, and by the end of the video, you're going to have a very clear picture of your psychology, and you'll know exactly how to apply these ideas and also why you should apply them. So let's start by talking about misconceptions of how your brain works. In order to understand how to get things done when you feel lazy, we first need to ask the question, how does the brain even work? What is actually happening when we feel motivated? And why do we feel lazy and procrastinate even when we know that that's not good for us? These are big questions which obviously take years to answer, but one of the most important things that we can do is to start by upgrading the story of how you think your brain in particular works. Without understanding this, we're prone to making the same mistakes over and over again, and as a result working against our internal rhythms and biologies instead of with them. See, most people don't actually experience the objective reality before them. Instead, what they experience is their story of it. And so we don't react to our experiences, we react to our stories about those experiences. So you might think that you're this rational, logical, ambitious, smart human being, and that's who decides what you do and also what you don't do. But it's actually not that simple. Most people mistakenly believe that life is this single player game where one person, i.e. you, is making all your decisions. It's you that gets your work done, it's you that procrastinates, and it's you that is at fault when you're being lazy. But the truth is, it's a bit more nuanced than that. I'm only touching the basics and the foundation here when I say this, but there's actually a second, more powerful character driving your choices from behind the scenes. People of Earth, allow me to introduce your inner chimp. Now, you can watch my previous video where I talk about this in a bit more detail over here. I'll leave a link in the info card. But in short, the inner chimp, this is the section of your brain that thinks and behaves much like a chimp. And so it's highly emotional, it loves comfort, and it's very, very, very motivated by instant gratification and endless days of easy pleasure. On top of this, your inner chimp is far more powerful than you, this logical, rational, ambitious human. And so if you want to get things done, even when you don't feel like it, it's not you that you need to worry about, it's this inner chimp. Put simply, if you're going to succeed on a consistent basis, you've got to learn how to manage and harness the power of this instant gratification monkey. Now, once people realize that this power dynamic is at play, they often fall victim to a grave mistake that leads only to further their own downfall. Their first instinct is to do what? Judge themselves and treat their chimp with contempt and disdain. They see this part of them as something that they don't like about themselves, and as this feature of their own weakness rather than a bug in a system. So here's what I suggest as a much better approach. First off is to internalize the truth that no breakthrough ever came from more judgment and more shame, not just for yourself, but for others too. And so if you're judging yourself or your chimp for being this lazy, half-assed procrastinator, and you wish that it didn't exist, consider what I said very carefully. Judgment like this, it creates more shame, and shame destroys your mental health. Like a child, your inner chimp doesn't respond well to being told off and judged all the time in this way. So the first takeaway and principle, the must-do principle here, is a simple practice of starting from a place of acceptance and compassion. Especially with everything that's going on in the world, I would expect, yes, expect, that you repeatedly have these random days where these feelings creep up on you, with most of it being driven by the childlike, illogical, irrational emotions of your inner chimp. Stop wishing for days where you don't feel like it, and instead start designing habits and rituals where you can sustainably manage yourself and your inner chimp with grace, compassion, and understanding. Now, often the actual mechanics of what we want to do isn't that hard, but it's our psychology that stops us. Think about it. The mechanics of doing something like a workout, they're quite simple. You put your shoes on and you run around outside, but it's actually something up here in our psychology that stops us. One of the main reasons that it seems like we don't want to do something is because the task itself, the command, it's not clear enough. Often when we write down our goals, what do? We don't put the extra work in to carve out the specific actions that we want to follow. We say things like, I want to lose weight over and over and over without actually defining. What does that mean? What do we actually need to do? What are the actions associated with that? And so complexity and ambiguity, they create this breeding ground for procrastination to take over and ruin our lives. In scenarios like this, our inner chimps, they find it difficult to figure out what actually needs to be done. And so what do? The chimp defaults back to the familiar and the pleasurable. Yo. Look alive. Yo, hey, over here. Hey. Been thinking about it, set some new goals. All right? 6-pack abs. 6-pack abs. Me and you dig? Understand? Nod if you understand me. Okay, get hench, ripped. The next time you want to write a goal, make sure it's as specific, as clear, and actionable as possible. Now, if you're struggling with this, or you're not sure the best way to write your goals, I've actually got a video on my channel that you can check out, which walks you through the most powerful goal setting technique that I know. It's something called the GROW model. And using tools like the GROW model on a regular basis is another must-do protocol and principle. Part of the reason why I often used to struggle with getting things done when I didn't feel like it was because precisely that. I was waiting for this moment where I'd finally feel like it. I'd be armed with an infinite supply of believable excuses, and I'd basically sit around and wait until I felt like it. Until one day, a business mentor of mine, he explained how he got over this mindset and built multiple 6-figure businesses and the life that he'd always dreamed of. And here's how it works. So shout out to Parker Welbeck for this. Imagine we created a graph of productivity over time. See, what I used to expect and what most of us want is this. That moment of inspiration where you feel like it and boom, you take off and you keep going full throttle for like 3, 4, 5 hours. But the science and data clearly shows us that this is not realistic. It looks more like this. And what I realized from this mentor is that it actually takes 20 minutes to get into this focused flow state, similar to doing a warm-up in the gym, which activates our musculoskeletal system and our cardiovascular system to get our blood flowing and pumping. It's also a similar effect here. Our brains need a bit of time to warm up, and this period can take anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes, maybe more, maybe less. But the key thing is getting warmed up. Now, to add to this, there's actually something in our biology that we can take advantage of called the ultradian cycle. These are the rhythms in your body that take place within a 24-hour period. This can include everything from a human heartbeat to blinking to digestion and focus. Rather than constantly grinding your way through the day and forcing things, align your work habits with your natural patterns, making the process far more fluid. So how do you apply this theory to your specific and individual case? Well, to help us tailor these ideas to our unique psychology, there's 2 pieces of fascinating neuroscience that we can apply to our lives. The first is what's known as your sleep chronotype, which looks at the PER3 gene, helping you to understand your unique circadian rhythm and your sleep personality type. A quick Google will help you to find yours. I'll also link one of the tests down below. I'm not associated with them in any way. But the second data point and the next must-do protocol is even more important, and it's something called your temperature minimum. Before we get to that vitally important piece, I want to talk about my new class and how you can enjoy it for free through today's sponsor of the video, Skillshare. Skillshare, as I'm sure you know by now, is an online learning community with thousands of inspiring classes for creative and curious people. It's a great place for you to explore new skills, deepen existing passions, and get lost in creativity. And one of those classes is my very own called Inner Compass. Inner Compass is a complete 6-lesson guide helping you to amplify your motivation through a step-by-step guide on finding your purpose and then sustaining it through habits. I recently got my first review from someone called Cynthia, who very kindly said this: Skillshare is curated specifically for learning, so there's no ads and they're always launching new premium classes so you can stay focused and follow wherever your creativity takes you. The first 1,000 of my subscribers to click on the link in the description will get a special 1-month free trial of Skillshare so you can start exploring your creativity today. So go check out Inner Compass for yourself using this free trial, which by the way, you can also cancel at any time you like, and let me know what you think. All right, let's get back to the video. So your temperature minimum is the time that your body is at its lowest temperature over a 24-hour period. And by working this out, we can find a reference for when our optimal time for mental focus and performance might be. And here's how to do that. Every day when you wake up, write down the time you woke up and subtract 2 hours from that time. So if you woke up at 8 AM today, your temperature minimum would have been around 6 AM. And this is because the lowest temperature that your body will be at in a 24-hour period is generally around 2 hours before you wake up. And your best work happens 4 to 6 hours after your temperature minimum. So in this case, that'll be somewhere between 10 AM and 12 PM, which on reflection, after tracking it for the last 30 days myself, is definitely true. What I like to do then is schedule my most challenging and important task or project for that part of the day. As with any piece of data, you want to measure and track for trends over time so you get a good quality set of data. And so what I'm going to do is link a free Google sheet that you can create a copy of to track your temperature minimum for the next 30 days and work out when is the most optimal time to work for you. One of the other things that the neuroscience is really clear in telling us that helps us trigger powerful states of mental focus and performance lies in the beginning of our day. It's actually something that I wish I'd known sooner, and if there's one thing that you do from this video, let this be that thing. It's called walking. Going outside first thing in the morning, and most importantly, exposing the neurons in your eyes to the natural blue light from the sun. Now, there's so many benefits to this, so let's dive a bit deeper into the science. When we generate our own forward motion, visual images in our environment pass by us and they activate something very fancy called the reticular activation system. Basically, walking outdoors first thing in the morning, it has a powerful effect on your nervous system as it reduces the amount of activity in something called the amygdala. One of the main roles of the amygdala is managing things like threat detection, fear, and anxiety. Here are 3 examples. This study here found that when mice walked forwards, many brain areas were activated because of that optic flow, and the activity in the amygdala was reduced. Another study here shows that lateral eye movements from side to side reduce activity in that fear and anxiety section of the brain. Walking encourages our brain to release endorphins, a neurotransmitter that boosts our mental health and kickstarts flow. Just take a look at this graph of you sitting for 20 minutes and then this one of you walking for 20 minutes. Which one do you usually create in your morning routine, and which one would you rather have? The takeaway here then is it's not just about exercise or burning calories, but walking first thing in the morning is about reducing amygdala activity and getting relaxed and into that flow state. Your best thinking and work happens not by desire, but by design. And on a more personal note, as someone who's lived and been diagnosed in the past with generalized anxiety disorder, I find that this morning walk is absolutely vital. It really helps me to ensure that I continue fostering optimal mental health. The other thing that I like is that it gets me moving from the beginning of the day, and without it, I can quite easily sit around all day, become sedentary and quite inactive. The second reason for that outdoor walk is the exposure to natural sunlight, which also is so vital to your mental and physical health. It's perhaps the most important thing that we can and we should be doing to stack the deck in our favor for being at our most optimal mentally. Getting outdoors and in natural light for at least 10 to 30 minutes. It stimulates neurons in the eye, which send a cascade of signals to the brain to say, hey, it's time to be alert, it's time to wake up. And that leads to a tsunami of activation throughout your body, one of which is the release of the hormone called cortisol. And this short pulse of the hormone promotes wakefulness, and it's vitally important that that pulse arrives early in the day because it's going to happen at some point in your 24-hour day, no matter what. And you can activate it primarily by when the neurons of your eye are exposed to natural sunlight. An added tip that I've been using as well is sleeping with my blinds open to help my body synchronize with the natural cycle of the sun. But this might not be beneficial to all of you because you might be struggling with sleep right now, or that just might not be possible. But the main thing here is getting that walk outside and exposing the neurons of the eye to that natural sunlight, as I said. Alright, so the next must-do protocol is one I've used, but I've been kind of skeptical of, to be honest with you, because I thought it was a bit of pseudoscience and internet hype. But I'm pleasantly surprised to say, in doing the research for this video, I found it's really heavily supported by high-quality, peer-reviewed data, and that is listening to white noise at a low volume while you're working, preferably without headphones. White noise is basically all of the frequencies of sound that our human ear can perceive, but it's jumbled up in a random mishmash of noise. And what happens when we listen to it whilst working is actually really fascinating. Not only does it facilitate an added level of information processing, but it also puts the brain in a greater state of dopamine release, which is one of the neurochemicals responsible for things like willpower and motivation. And like I said, what we're trying to do here is use all of these things to create an unfair advantage where we're stacking the deck in favor of productivity, health, and performance on a more consistent basis. We are bombarded on a constant basis with an overwhelming variety of wonderful options for distraction. Right now, there are a crazy amount of well-written shows to watch on not just one, but a host of platforms. There's also endless amounts of beautifully made, informative, engaging content, not just on YouTube, but on a host of platforms. And then there are the daily dings and pings and notifications that we get from friends, family, group chats, and the like that we have to keep up with. And one of the absolute best things that I've recommitted to even recently that helps me to get more done is turning those things off, deleting social media apps on my phone, and dramatically making an effort to lower my screen time on my phone. As a content creator and someone who's hungry to learn, I find all of these things are totally overwhelming and slightly disabling. And one of the things that happened over the year of lockdowns we've had is I got into this habit of falling asleep whilst watching stuff on my phone. And I didn't realize it, but exposing my eyes to the blue light on my phone, especially after 10 o'clock at night, was hampering the quality of my sleep and affecting my focus. What I'm finding now is I'm using my phone for distraction far less and starting my day with focus rather than with a feed. The last thing you want is to send your inner chimp spiraling out of control by giving it hit after hit after hit of novelty and distraction. And by removing these things, you're making life easier when it comes to managing yourself, managing your chimp, and managing your focus. Now, what if you try all of the above and still you can't seem to get that task done. You've tried delegating it, you've tried quite genuinely to use things like the grow model, go on the morning walks and use the temperature minimum and all the rest of that stuff, but still nothing seems to be working. Well, here's where I'd say you need to talk to someone, and not just anyone, family, friends. I'm talking about a trained professional. Because if you're in a low mood, you're apathetic, you've got low motivation for a long extended period of time, that is a massive red flag. And it's only through working with qualified, trained professionals that you can get to the root of what's going on. So definitely have a think about that if that applies to you. The reason you're procrastinating might be because the chimp is at the wheel, or it might be because there's something deeper going on, a trauma you haven't healed, or something else entirely. So definitely think about working with a professional. Thank you so much for watching. Click here to watch my video on the lazy person's guide to self-discipline, where I dive even deeper into the psychology of your inner chimp, as well as some stuff I didn't get to mention in today's video. And as ever, keep following your inner compass, and I'll see you next time. Peace.